Let me tell you something that most people never realize until it's too late. Most people spend their whole life trying to look rich instead of actually becoming wealthy. See, they chase pay raises, car upgrades, and bigger homes, not realizing that real wealth doesn't need an audience. It grows quietly, patiently, and in the background. It's not flashy and it's not loud, but it's powerful. So, in this video, I want to show you how to build wealth without anyone knowing, how to build a life where you're free, even when there's no audience. So, I'm going to walk you through 7 stealth wealth habits that help my wife and I build real peace, margin, and freedom quietly and on our terms. Because stealth wealth isn't about hiding, it's about choosing peace over performance, discipline over display, and freedom over flexing. And make sure to stick around till the end because the final habit isn't about money, it's about your peace. And it might just be that one habit that changes everything for you. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Most people spend their entire paycheck trying to look like they've made it. New car, big house, designer brands. But behind that curtain, there's a lot of stress, debt, and no real peace. See, the wealthiest people I've met, they don't feel the need to perform. They live quietly, spend intentionally, and keep their freedom because they're not trying to impress anyone. And that's the entire theme of this video and what stealth wealth is honestly all about. It's not about hiding your money, it's about protecting your peace. Because true wealth, it isn't loud, it's calm, it's consistent, and it's controlled. And when you start living this way, you don't just keep more of your money, you keep more of your time, your sanity, and your joy. So let's dive in and talk about it. Stop looking rich and start building real wealth. Ever notice how the people who look the wealthiest are often under the most pressure? See, performative spending is the number one invisible tax on the middle class wealth. It feels normal, but it's draining your future one upgrade at a time. See, we've been taught to chase a lifestyle, better cars, bigger homes, designer labels, but that pressure to look successful, it's exactly what robs you of the margin that you need to becoming actually wealthy. See, the wealthiest people that I know, they don't flash it, right? They don't have to, because real wealth doesn't need applause. It needs patience, focus, and discipline. And that starts by saying no to any unnecessary upgrades and yes to financial peace. The first stealth wealth habit, it's simple. Live below your means, but on purpose. Not because you can't afford more, but because you've outgrown that whole need to prove anything. See, that might mean driving a 10-year-old car even when your income could justify a new one. It might mean sticking with your modest home instead of upgrading like everyone else. Or it might mean wearing the same jacket for 3 winters straight and still staying warm. See, my wife and I, we made these choices not out of scarcity, but out of strategy, right? And it gave us that breathing room to build wealth in the background while others were still stuck flexing for approval. So, as an actionable step, I want you to pull up your 3 biggest monthly expenses. That's your housing, transportation, and lifestyle. Now, I want you to ask yourself, if no one could see this, would I still choose it? If that answer is no, that's your starting point. Try pausing just one of those visible upgrades for the next 30 days and then redirecting that money into something that buys freedom instead. That could mean a contribution to your TFSA or your Roth IRA, your first or your next ETF, or just building up your emergency fund. Because building stealth wealth starts the moment you stop performing and start progressing. Because here's the thing most people never realize. The less you spend trying to look like you're ahead, the more you can actually get ahead. So let's talk about the next stealth wealth habit, one that completely reframes how you think about spending by stop spending like everyone's watching. If nobody knew what you owned, would you still buy it? One of the most powerful stealth wealth habits is shifting your spending decisions from public approval to private intention. See, most people, they spend money for others, right? To impress, to keep up, to feel seen. That's not real wealth. That's performance. The truth is, most of what we buy isn't based on need. It's actually based on how we think will be perceived. And the more you let that perception drive your wallet, the more broke you'll actually stay, even with a 6-figure income. But stealth wealth, it's different, right? It's quiet, it's internal, and it's intentional. And it's spending that's rooted in values and not validation. This habit changes your internal script. So instead of asking, will this make me look successful? You then start asking, will this matter a year from now, even if no one notices. See, that single question alone, it can eliminate impulse buys, trend chasing, and even social driven spending. So my wife and I, we started doing this years ago. We'd pause before any non-essential purchase, and we'd ask ourselves, would we still want this if no one saw it on Instagram or Facebook? And honestly, you'd be surprised how often that answer was no. So here's your challenge this week. Before any non discretionary purchase, so that's anything you don't need, I want you to pause and ask yourself, am I buying this for value or for visibility? Now, if that answer leans more towards visibility, I want you to put it on a 48-hour wait list. And after 2 days, I want you to see if it still holds that power. You might be surprised that it doesn't. And once you stop spending for approval, you start seeing money completely different. It's no longer about what you can buy today, but what you can build tomorrow. And that mindset shift, it opens the door to the next stealth wealth habit, the one that quietly multiplies your future options by growing in the background. You don't have to be loud to build something big. Some of the strongest financial growth, it happens silently. When people think of wealth building, they picture constant movement, stock trades, side hustles, real estate deals. But the most reliable wealth, it's built in the background, quietly and systematically. See, with stealth wealth, it thrives on systems that don't rely on willpower. Because willpower, it honestly fades, but systems, they don't. And when your wealth grows while you're sleeping, working, or spending time with family, now that's the real flex. See, this habit is all about automation, automating your savings, automating your investments, and automating anything that brings you closer to that peace, right? So here's what that looks like for my wife and I. We set up automatic monthly transfers to our TFSAs and RRSP accounts, rain or shine. So we choose long-term ETFs like VOO or XEQT or VFV and never touch them. No hype, no stress, just quiet growth. Then all our dividends are automatically reinvested each month into our individual dividend aristocrat and dividend king positions, but only if they're on sale. And if there's nothing worth buying that month, well, then everything just flows straight into our only ETF, XEQT, and that's it. We handle everything through our bank's brokerage account, and then we track it using Wealthica.com. So we're not guessing, we're seeing real progress. Because the real goal isn't to micromanage your money, it's to build a system that works even when you're not looking or when you're sleeping. Because here's the secret. The people who look the busiest aren't always the ones that are making the most progress. It's often the quiet ones, the ones with a steady system and invisible growth. But here's the next stealth wealth habit that keeps it all on track, and it actually has nothing to do with money. But before we dive into the next section, if this video is helping you see wealth a little differently, do me a quick favor, tap subscribe or hit the like button if you haven't already. It's totally free. It literally takes a second. And I see a lot of people in the comments who didn't even realize they weren't subscribed. So if you've been watching these videos and getting true value out of it, just double check real quick for me. It really does mean a lot because it helps this channel reach more people who are trying to build real wealth quietly, intentionally, and on their own terms, right? So to thank you, here's a fox, sharp, quiet, and always 2 steps ahead. I appreciate you being here. Now let's get back to it. Spend below your identity. Let me say something that might sting a little. Most people actually don't go broke because they live above their means. They actually go broke because they spend up to their identity. See, spending up to your income is one thing, but when you're spending to match what you think you are or the life you believe you deserve, that's way more dangerous, right? Because it's no longer based on math. It's based on your ego, status, and image. That's why someone could be making 150 grand a year and still feel completely broke. Their spending isn't tied to needs or values. It's tied to keeping up with an identity. So I'm a manager now. I should be driving a nice car. Or we live in the suburbs now. We need a bigger house. Or I work hard and I deserve this upgrade. It's not about survival anymore. It's about validation. And that's exactly why stealth wealth works. Because when you choose to live below your identity, you automatically live below your means too. All right, let me give you a personal example. When I landed my first real graphic design job over 20 years ago, I was so excited to finally be earning a salary. Back when I started, I was making like 35 grand a year. And what did I do? I went out and I financed a $30,000 car. How dumb was that? Let that sink in for a second. My car cost almost as much as I made in an entire year. And yeah, it felt good for a hot minute, but it was financially dumb. I thought I was leveling up, right? But the truth is, I wasn't buying a vehicle, I was buying an identity. Mind you, once I realized how bad of a financial decision it was, I smartened up and I got gazelle intense and I paid it off within 3 years by grinding hard and keeping my head down. But looking back, that car set me back more than I realized because instead of building a gap between my income and my lifestyle, I filled it instead just to look like I was ahead in life. And that was the moment I realized just because you could finance something or even buy it, it doesn't mean it's a wise move, right? So, as an actionable step, here's something practical you can do this week. Write down your current income and then list the top 3 lifestyle upgrades you've made in the past 12 months. Then I want you to ask yourself and be honest with yourself on this. Did I buy this because I valued it? Or did I buy this because it matched who I think I should be? You'd be surprised on how much you're spending is tied to your identity and not your actual goals. The truth is, stealth wealth isn't about deprivation, it's about intention. And the more intentional you get, the more you begin to realize you don't need to look wealthy to build real wealth. And that's exactly what we'll dive into next by building a life you don't have to post about. Let me ask you something personal. If no one could see your life, no social media, no status updates, or no flexing, would you still be proud of it? So much of our financial stress today isn't from what we lack. It's actually from what we feel pressured to show. We don't just spend money, we perform with it. Vacations, new kitchens, luxury cars, and high-end gear. All of it curated for others to see, react to, and to validate. But here's the truth. Real peace is quiet. It doesn't need to be posted. It doesn't crave likes, right? And when you stop trying to impress people who aren't even paying attention, you suddenly gain 2 things: margin and motivation. Margin to save and invest more, and motivation to build what actually feels rich and not just looks like it. So, over a decade ago, my wife and I made a small but powerful decision. We started sharing very little, almost nothing about our life on social media. No more vacation highlight reels, no more home upgrades or lifestyle wins on display. Not because we were hiding anything, because we were protecting something. And what we found was actually really surprising. The less we posted, the more we're actually enjoying what we had. Moments weren't interrupted by trying to capture them, or purchases weren't made to be validated. And gradually, our spending started to shift as well. We were no longer performing for the crowd, we were living for each other, our kids, and our future. So, as an actionable step, I want you to try this. I want you to try going 72 hours without sharing anything about your lifestyle. So, that's no stories, no posts, or no updates. And then during that time, I want you to reflect on these 2 questions. Who am I without an audience? And what parts of my life bring me true joy, even total privacy? You might realize how much pressure you felt to show your life instead of actually live it. Living quietly doesn't mean hiding. It means choosing peace over performance. And the less you try to prove, the more power you have to build in silence. And speaking of building, invest in what they can't see. Let me tell you something that'll never go viral on Instagram. The most valuable investments you'll ever make won't show up on your wrist, your driveway, or your social media feeds. Stealth wealth isn't about saving money. It's about where you direct that money, your time, your energy, and your attention. Flashy lifestyles focus on display, but quiet builders focus on development. See, you don't need to impress anyone when your money is working harder than your image. That's the mindset shift. Because here's what wealthy people really know: compound interest is invisible, discipline doesn't get applause, and self education doesn't trend. But over time, those silent moves become massive leverage. So when I started taking financial freedom seriously, I stopped buying things to show and started buying things that actually grow: books, courses, ETFs, and stock shares, time with mentors, and systems that made my life simpler and my decisions smarter. I even began paying more attention to things like net worth and balance sheets and using tools like wealthica.com here in Canada to see the full picture. Nobody knew, right? But day after day, month after month, and year after year, my wife and I, we were building and building in silence. So as an actionable step, I want you to try a simple exercise. I want you to make a list of 3 things you've spent money on in the last 30 days that had zero return or zero long term return, to be more specific. Now, I want you to replace each one with an investment that no one sees. That could be a quiet TFSA or Roth IRA contribution, or a financial literacy book that challenges how you think, or a practical tool like the Every Dollar app to track your savings and budgeting goals, or even a margin day to reset your mindset and start breathing again. Because one quiet investment today can echo for decades. And here's the truth: the more invisible your investments are, the more powerful they actually become. Because real wealth, it doesn't beg to be noticed. But if you really want to keep your wealth quiet, you also need to protect it. And that brings us to let silence be your flex. So some of the richest people I know, they say almost nothing about money. And that might be the biggest flex of all. When you're early in your journey, it's tempting to want people to see your progress. Notice your new car, your new gear, your new place, right? But that's the problem. When you need applause to validate your growth, you'll keep spending just to keep that attention. True wealth doesn't crave the spotlight, it creates peace in the background. The loudest person in the room often has the least amount of margin. The quietest ones, they're focused, purposeful, and often way further ahead than you think. That's what stealth wealth protects. Not just your money, but your energy, your mind, and your peace. So one of the biggest shifts my wife and I made in our household was this. We stopped trying to prove we were doing well. So we didn't post a vacation, we didn't talk about our investments during dinner parties, and we didn't make a big deal out of paying off our mortgage. And what happened? More peace, less pressure, and more margin. Think, rest, and grow without performance weighing us down. That's the real flex that no one talks about. Quiet joy, private wins, and a calm spirit that doesn't need validation. So as an actionable step, here's a stealth wealth challenge. I want you to pick one area of your life where you usually feel the need to share, flex, or even prove. And now for the next 30 days, keep it private. Don't announce your raise, don't post that new toy, or don't even chase the nod of approval. Then I want you to ask yourself at the end of the month, did your peace grow when all the noise stopped? That answer might change absolutely everything for you. So remember, stealth wealth isn't about hiding what you have. It's about protecting what matters most. It's where you live below your identity and not just below your means. It's where you invest quietly while others spend loudly. It's where you stop performing and start compounding instead. It's where you don't need to look rich because you're becoming truly free. It's that margin between your income and your ego, and that gap between what people think you have and what's actually working behind the scenes. It's where your freedom lives. And here's the thing most people miss. The more your wealth grows, the less you'll feel the need to actually prove it, but only if you build it with purpose, in silence, with patience, and with peace as the priority. So if you're making intentional choices, cutting back the noise, stacking behind the scenes, and subscribing and hitting that like button, you're already way ahead of most. So protect your margin, guard your peace, and build the kind of life you never need to post about. And hey, if this video resonated with you, go watch this next. What $1 million really looks like in Canada and in the US. I break down how many people actually have $1 million net worth, and more importantly, what that money's really made of. It's about what you do with it when no one's watching. Thanks so much for being here. Stay humble, stay in the black, and I'll see you in the next one.